The woman from Adult Protective Services stood in my living room holding the folder I'd just handed her. Her expression shifted from professional concern to something I hadn't seen in 8 years. Anger, on my behalf. "Your son has been withdrawing how much per month?" she asked. $2,200 for 96 consecutive months. She looked at my son. "We need to talk. Privately, but 3 months earlier I had no idea betrayal was coming. The knock came on a Tuesday morning, 10:15. I was at the dining table organizing aerospace project files for my bombardier years when I saw my son Brendan standing on the porch beside a woman in professional attire holding a clipboard. I opened the door. "Mr. Walter Brennan?" the woman asked. "Yes, I'm Rachel Martin from Adult Protective Services. May I come in?" My stomach dropped. I looked at Brendan. His face was arranged into concern. Practiced concern. "Dad, these people just want to help," he said. "I'm worried about you." That's when I understood. My 40-year-old son, who'd lived in my house rent-free for 8 years, who drained $211,000 from our joint checking account, who contributed nothing while I paid every bill, had called strangers to have me declared incompetent. Ms. Martin stepped inside. "I'm here because we received a report that you may need assistance with daily living activities." Brendan moved beside her. "He forgets things. The house is getting cluttered. I've tried to help, but he won't listen to reason." I looked at my son. At the son my wife Carol and I raised. The son who moved in 9 years ago when cancer took his mother. The son who said he needed 6 months to find his footing. 8 years later, he was still here, still unemployed, still taking. And now this. "Mr. Brennan, may I walk through your home?" Rachel asked. "Of course," I said. Brendan's voice took on that edge I'd learned to recognize. "Dad, just cooperate. This is for your own good." I met his eyes. "I've been cooperative for 8 years, haven't I?" Something flickered across his face. Uncertainty. Good. Because what neither of them knew was that I'd been documenting everything since month 13. Every withdrawal, every broken promise, every moment of manipulation. I'd been waiting for this. Rachel walked slowly through the house. Brendan followed close, pointing. "See these boxes?" he said, gesturing to the spare bedroom. "He won't let me throw anything away. It's all old work papers, aerospace manuals from the 80s. He says he needs them." Rachel examined the boxes. They were labeled, clearly. Bombardier Technical Documents, 1985 to 989. Project Specifications, CRJ Series. Organized by year and project. "These appear systematically filed," Rachel said. Brendan shifted tactics. "The kitchen then. Look at the cabinets." Rachel opened them. "Standard pantry items, canned goods, pasta, rice. Nothing excessive." "This seems like normal grocery stock," Rachel said. "He buys multiples, forgets what he has." I spoke for the first time since we started the tour. "I buy 2 of shelf-stable items when they're on sale. That's not hoarding, that's economics." Rachel made a note. "May I see the bedroom areas?" she asked. Brendan's face tightened. "Mine first." We walked to my room. Bed made. Clothes hung in closet organized by type. Dresser top clear except for wallet and watch. Bathroom clean. "And yours?" Rachel asked Brendan. "I don't see why that's relevant." Rachel's tone stayed professional. "I'd like to see all living spaces." Brendan's room told a different story. Clothes on floor. Fast food containers on the desk. Unmade bed. Smell of stale air and neglect. Rachel spent 30 seconds taking it in. Then we returned to the dining table where my files were spread. "Mr. Brennan, how do you manage your finances?" Rachel asked. Brendan jumped in immediately. "He forgets to pay bills. I have to help him. That's why we have a joint account." "I've never missed a bill payment in 53 years, I said quietly. "Dad, that's not—" Rachel held up a hand. "Mr. Brennan, may I see some financial documents?" This was the moment I'd been preparing for without knowing I'd need it. Rachel asked if she could review some financial documents. That's when I knew Brendan had made a terrible miscalculation, because everything she was about to see, I'd prepared for exactly this moment. I walked to the dining room hutch, pulled out a navy folder labeled Household Finance Records 2017, present. Brendan stared at it. He'd never seen this folder, never knew it existed. I handed it to Rachel. Inside were 8 years of utility bills, everyone marked paid with date and confirmation number. Property tax statements showing current status. investment portfolio statements from my financial advisor showing $470,000 in diversified holdings, bank statements from my personal checking account showing regular deposits from pension and consistent responsible spending. Rachel reviewed each page. Her expression never changed, but I saw her posture shift. "Your records are meticulous," she said. "Structural engineer," I said. "Documentation was part of the job." She looked at Brendan. "These don't suggest any cognitive difficulty or financial mismanagement." Brendan's voice rose slightly. "The joint account, though, that's where the problems are." Rachel turned to me. "You have a joint account with your son?" "Yes." She flipped to the bank statements. "I see regular withdrawals, large ones. $2,200 on average," I said, "monthly, for 8 years. "I help with expenses," Brendan said quickly. Rachel's pen paused over her notepad. "What expenses require $2,200 monthly?" "Groceries, utilities, household costs." Brendan was talking faster now. "Mr. Brennan," Rachel said to me, "do these withdrawals represent shared household expenses?" I met her eyes. "I'd like to show you something else." The folder appeared in Brendan's nightmares after that day. I'm sure of it. When Carol died, Brendan came to the funeral alone. His girlfriend had left him 2 months prior. He'd lost his marketing coordinator position at a downtown firm. He looked hollow. "Stay with me," I'd said. "Take time to grieve." He moved into the spare bedroom. Said he needed 6 months to find his footing. I opened a joint checking account so he could buy groceries, handle household expenses while I worked through my own grief. 6 months became a year. A year became 3. His job search grew less urgent. The withdrawals continued. I kept waiting for him to stand up, to contribute, to become the man his mother believed he'd be. By year 5, I'd stopped waiting. I'd started documenting. I returned with a second folder. This one was thicker, labeled Account Activity Documentation. Brendan's face went pale. I handed it to Rachel. She opened it to the first page. A printed bank statement from January 2017. Beside each of Brendan's withdrawals, I'd written notes in blue ink. January 12, 1800, Brendan said, car repair. No repair receipt provided. January 28, 2400, Brendan said, deposit for apartment search. Never moved out. She flipped to the next month. More statements. More notes. February 15, 2100, Brendan said, job interview wardrobe. Attended 0 interviews that month per his own admission. Page after page. Month after month. 96 months of documentation. Rachel was quiet for a long time. When she looked up, she wasn't looking at me. She was looking at Brendan. And I saw the moment she understood who the actual victim was in this house. "Mr. Brennan," she said to my son, "can you explain these withdrawals?" "I told you, household expenses. $2,200 monthly in household expenses?" Brendan's hands moved as he talked. "Groceries aren't cheap. Utilities, property maintenance, gas, insurance." Rachel glanced at the first folder still on the table. "Your father's records show he pays utilities directly from his personal account. Property taxes as well." "What specifically did you purchase?" "Various things. I don't keep receipts for everything." "Over 8 years?" "I was helping. Dad gets confused about money." Rachel turned back to me. "Mr. Brennan Walter, do you feel confused about money?" "No. Do you understand what $2,200 per month for 96 months totals? $211,200. Brendan made a noise. "That's not exact. He's rounding." "It's exact," I said. "I'm an engineer. I don't round." Rachel made another note. "Mr. Brennan, Brendan, did you contribute to household expenses during this time?" Silence. Rachel's voice stayed level. "Did you pay rent? This is my father's house. We're family." "Did you pay for groceries?" "Sometimes." "Did you pay utilities?" "I was between jobs." "For 8 years?" Brendan's voice rose. "You don't understand what it's like out there. The job market, age discrimination. I have a degree in marketing and nobody will hire me because—" Rachel interrupted. "How many job applications have you submitted in the past year?" "I don't know. Several." I spoke quietly. 0. Brendan spun toward me. "You don't know that." I held up my phone. "You use my Wi-Fi. I see the router history. No job sites accessed in 14 months. Before that, sporadic. Total applications in 8 years that I can document? 12. What Rachel found in those folders changed everything. This is Elder Vengeance, where patience defeats manipulation every single time. Hit subscribe and ring that bell, because when she asked Brendan to explain those withdrawals, his story fell apart in real time. And I had even more proof than she'd seen yet. Rachel closed the folder. Set it on the table between us. Mr. Brennan, Walter, did you approve these withdrawals? I approved the account access when Brendan moved in temporarily. I did not approve withdrawing $211,000 over 8 years with no repayment and no contribution to household costs. You could have closed the account, Brendan said. I could have. I wanted to see if you'd make it right. So this is entrapment? This is documentation. Rachel stood. Mr. Brennan, I need to ask you some questions about your cognitive function. I'm competent, I believe you, but I need documentation. Do you have any recent medical assessments? I walked to the filing cabinet, pulled another folder, handed it to her. Inside was a cognitive function test administered 2 months prior, part of my annual health assessment through the Bombardier Retirees Program. Perfect score across all categories: memory, problem solving, spatial reasoning, executive function. Rachel reviewed it, looked up at me. You passed with perfect marks. I have a degree in aerospace engineering. I spent 38 years calculating stress loads on aircraft fuselage. My mind is fine. She turned to Brendan. Your report stated your father shows signs of dementia. He talks to himself. I talk through engineering problems. It's a thinking method. He forgets conversations. I remember every conversation, I said, including the one where you promised to pay me back within a year. That was 7 years ago. That pause cost Brendan everything, because Rachel Martin had been doing this work for 14 years. She knew exactly what that pause meant. Mr. Brennan, Walter, would you be comfortable speaking with me privately? Yes. Brendan stood. This is ridiculous. I'm his son. I should be part of... Ms. Martin's voice went formal. Please wait in the living room. We walked to the kitchen. Rachel closed the door. Her voice dropped. How long has the verbal abuse been happening? I didn't mention. You documented financial exploitation meticulously. Nobody does that without reason. What else has been happening? I took a breath. He tells me I'm a burden, that I'm too old to live alone, that I don't understand the modern world, that I should be grateful he's here taking care of me. Does he threaten you? Not physically, but he says if I cut off his access to money, he'll call Elder Services and have me moved to a facility, that he'll tell them I'm incompetent, which is exactly what he did. Yes. Do you feel safe in this house? I paused. That pause was honest, not recently. Rachel's expression hardened. I need to be clear about something. What I've seen today isn't a hoarding situation. It's potential elder financial exploitation. Under Ontario law, I'm mandated to report this to police. You're going to report my son? I'm going to report suspected financial abuse. The police will investigate. That's not my decision. It's my legal obligation. She paused. I need to ask you directly. Do you want your son to continue living here? I looked through the kitchen doorway, could see Brendan pacing in the living room, checking his phone, probably texting someone about the crazy APS worker who didn't believe him. I thought about 8 years of waiting, 8 years of hoping, 8 years of enabling. No, I said. I want my son to understand consequences. Finally, Rachel opened the kitchen door. Brendan was still pacing the living room. Mr. Brennan, please sit down, she said. Her tone had changed. No longer the concerned social worker doing a wellness check. Now she was an investigator with evidence. Brendan sat on the edge of the couch. I don't understand what's happening here. Rachel remained standing, held the account documentation folder. I need to understand the $211,000 you've withdrawn from your father's account over 8 years. I already explained that. You said household expenses. Your father pays utilities, property tax, insurance, and groceries directly from his personal account. What did you purchase with $2,200 monthly? Personal expenses. Things I needed. So these were not household expenses? I was living here. My expenses are household expenses. Rachel opened the folder, pulled out a page. March 2019. You withdrew $1,800 on the 7th. Your note says you needed it for a car repair. Did you repair a car? Yes. Do you have a receipt? I don't keep receipts from 4 years ago. Your father noted that he found a gaming console box in the trash that week. A PlayStation 5. Did you purchase that? Brendan's jaw tightened. Maybe. I don't remember. They cost approximately $650. Where did the remaining $1,150 go? Various expenses. Rachel pulled another page. July 2020, $2,400 withdrawn. You told your father it was for interview suits. Did you attend job interviews that month? I don't recall. I documented 0 interviews, I said from the doorway. You were home every day. You were tracking me? I was observing reality. Rachel set the papers down. Your father has documentation showing you've submitted approximately 12 job applications in 8 years. Is that accurate? The market is difficult. 12 applications in 96 months? I have a degree. I'm not applying to minimum wage positions. What income have you earned during this time? That's personal. You're living in your father's home rent-free, withdrawing $2,000 monthly, claiming you're helping with household expenses you don't actually pay. Your income status is relevant. Brendan stood. This is harassment. Sit down, Rachel said. We're not finished. He sat. I watched my son realize what I'd known for months. He'd underestimated me. Badly, Rachel continued. Your father has cognitive test results showing perfect function. His home is organized and well-maintained, except for your personal space. His finances are meticulously managed. Why did you report him as incompetent? Because he is. He's 71 years old. He shouldn't be living alone. He's clearly capable of independent living. You don't see what I see. The memory lapses. The confusion. I don't have memory lapses, I said. I remember every promise you made. Every lie you told. Brendan turned on me. After everything I've done for you? After Mom died and I moved in to help you? You moved in because your girlfriend left you and you lost your job. I gave you a place to recover. You stayed because it was comfortable. I was grieving. We both were. I went back to work. You went to my bank account because you offered. You said use the joint account for expenses for 6 months while you found your footing. Not for 8 years while you took $200,000. Rachel's voice cut through. Mr. Spose. Brendan, did you tell your father these were loans? Brendan hesitated. We had an understanding. Answer the question. Did you characterize this money as loans you intended to repay? I said I'd pay him back when I got stable. But you never attempted to get stable, Rachel said. No sustained job search. No income. No repayment. And when your father began limiting access to funds, you called Adult Protective Services claiming he was incompetent. Is that accurate? I was concerned. You were losing your income source. This is insane. He's my father. I was helping him by withdrawing $2,200 monthly while contributing nothing to household expenses, by remaining unemployed for 8 years, by calling authorities to have him declared incompetent. That's not helping. That's exploitation. Brendan's face flushed red. You're really going to do this, he said to me, after everything? After everything is exactly right. You called strangers to declare me incompetent. You tried to take my independence, my home, my dignity, because you wanted money you didn't earn. That ends today. Fine, I'll move out. Is that what you want? What I want is for you to understand that respect isn't optional, that family doesn't mean you get to take without giving, that age doesn't equal weakness. Rachel closed her folder. Mr. Prized. Brendan, based on what I've observed and documented today, I'm required to file a report with Toronto Police Service regarding suspected elder financial abuse. You'll be contacted by investigators within 48 hours. The room went silent. You can't be serious, Brendan whispered. I'm legally mandated to report suspected exploitation. This qualifies. I'm his son. That doesn't exempt you from law. Brendan looked at me, his face transformed. The false concern was gone. Now I saw rage. You're gonna let her do this? I'm not letting her do anything. She's doing her job. I'm simply done enabling you. Brendan grabbed his jacket from the chair, started toward his room. Mr. Brennan, Rachel said, I'm also recommending you find alternative living arrangements immediately. This is my home too. No, it's your father's home. You're a guest who's overstayed. Brendan slammed his bedroom door. Rachel turned to me. You did the right thing documenting everything. I kept hoping he'd change. But hope isn't a strategy. No, she said. Documentation is. Rachel filed her report that afternoon. By Thursday morning, a detective from the fraud division called. Detective Sarah Lim asked if I could come to the station. Bring the documentation. I arrived at 2 o'clock with 3 folders. She reviewed everything for 90 minutes, asked questions about specific withdrawals, about Brendan's employment history, about the timeline of abuse. This is one of the most thoroughly documented cases I've seen, she said. Most victims don't realize they should be keeping records. I'm an engineer. I'd document everything. Lucky for you, unlucky for your son. Within a week, Brendan was charged with theft over $5,000 under the criminal code. The Crown Attorney's Office sent notice. Brendan hired a lawyer with money I knew he didn't have, probably borrowed from someone else he'd eventually disappoint. He moved out on a Saturday. I wasn't home. I'd gone to the Aerospace Museum for my volunteer shift. When I returned, his room was empty except for garbage, food containers, broken hangers, a hole punched in the wall I'd have to repair. I photographed it all, added it to the documentation. My neighbor, Mrs. Okoye, knocked on my door that evening, brought soup. I saw him leave with boxes, she said. Good riddance. You knew? Everyone knew, Walter. We just didn't know how to tell you. A son is a son, even when he's stealing from you. Especially then. That's the hardest truth to see. The community response surprised me. I'd thought I'd kept it private, but word spread. My former Bombardier colleagues reached out, engineers I'd worked with for decades. One of them, Martin Desrochers, called on a Tuesday. We should have said something. At your retirement party 2 years ago, Brendan cornered 3 of us asking about your pension. We thought it was odd, but we didn't want to interfere. What did he ask? How much you'd be getting monthly, whether you had other assets, whether you'd made him beneficiary on your life insurance. I sat down. Life insurance. Martin's voice was quiet. We didn't tell you because you seemed happy he was there. We thought maybe we misread it. You didn't misread anything. After that call, I checked my life insurance policy. Still listed Carol as primary beneficiary. Needed updating, but at least Brendan hadn't managed to change it without my knowledge. Not yet, anyway. The manipulation attempts started within days of him moving out. First came text messages. Dad, we can work this out family to family. Lawyers just make things worse. I know I made mistakes, but this is extreme. We're blood. Mom would want us to stick together. I didn't respond to any of them. Then voicemails. His voice shifting between anger and pleading. You're really going to destroy your only son over money? That's who you are now? I needed help and you're treating me like a criminal. Everyone thinks you've lost your mind, calling the police on your own kid. I saved them all, added them to the file. His lawyer sent a formal letter. Brendan was willing to negotiate. He'd repay the money over time if I'd asked the Crown to drop charges. A payment plan. Family resolution. I called Detective Lim. Is this standard? I asked. Very standard. Defense attorneys always try to negotiate elder abuse cases down to civil matters. Keeps it out of criminal court. What should I do? That's your decision. But I'll tell you what I tell every victim. If there are no consequences, the behavior continues. Maybe not with you, but with someone. I wrote back through my own lawyer. No negotiation. He faces the charges. Brendan's situation collapsed quickly after that. He'd moved in with his ex-girlfriend Amanda, the same one who'd left him 9 years earlier. She took him in out of pity. 2 weeks later, she kicked him out. Mrs. Okoye heard about it through a mutual acquaintance. Apparently, Brendan had tried the same tactics. Borrowed money for emergencies. Made promises he didn't keep. Asked about her credit cards. Amanda was smarter than I'd been. She ended it after 2 weeks instead of 8 years. Brendan moved to a basement apartment in Scarborough. His legal fees were mounting. No income to pay them. The court date was set for 6 months out. His lawyer was pushing for a plea deal. I thought I'd feel guilty. Instead, I felt free. The house was quiet. I could leave financial documents on the dining table without worrying someone would manipulate them. I could go to sleep without wondering what I'd discover missing in the morning. I could check my bank account without the drop in my stomach that came from seeing another unauthorized withdrawal. Friends I distanced myself from during Brendan's years reached out. I'd pulled back from social activities without realizing it. Stopped going to the monthly Bombardier retiree dinners. Stopped attending aerospace industry lectures. Too tired from the constant tension at home. I started going again. At one dinner, a former colleague named James Martin asked how I was doing. Really doing. Better, I said. Lighter. We heard what happened. Takes courage to hold family accountable. Doesn't feel like courage. Feels like survival. Same thing sometimes. The Crown attorney assigned to the case called in month 4. Brendan's lawyer was pushing hard for a plea, offering full restitution over 10 years in exchange for dropped charges. Can he even pay restitution? I asked. Probably not. But that's his offer. What do you recommend? We can push for a conviction. He'll likely get probation, partial restitution, mandated counseling. It'll be on his record. Do it. You're sure? This is your son. I'm sure. He needs to face real consequences, not buy his way out. The attorney was quiet for a moment. Most families don't make that choice. Most families enable longer than I did. 6 months after Rachel Martin stood in my living room, Brendan appeared in court. His lawyer had negotiated a plea, theft, over $5,000 instead of elder abuse. The Crown accepted. Lesser charge, faster resolution, guaranteed conviction on his record. The sentence came down on a Wednesday. 18 months probation, $50,000 restitution to be paid over 5 years, mandatory financial counseling, 5-year restraining order preventing contact with me except through legal representatives. Detective Lim called to tell me, "$50,000 is partial," she said. "You won't get everything back." I know. Most victims are happy just to get the person out of their lives. I am happy. The money was never the point. The boundaries are. Brendan's lawyer sent one letter after sentencing. Brendan wanted me to know he was sorry, that he'd been struggling and made poor choices, that he hoped eventually we could repair our relationship. I read it once, filed it in the documentation folder, didn't respond. Not because I'm unforgiving, because some relationships can't be repaired with words. They're broken at the foundation, built on assumptions that weren't true. Brendan assumed I'd always enable him. I assumed he'd eventually grow up. We were both wrong. My life now looks different. The house feels lighter. I wake up without tension in my chest. My bank account stays stable. I reconnected with the Bombardier Retirees Group, started volunteering at the Aerospace Museum twice weekly. Last Tuesday, a teenager visited during my shift, 16 years old, thinking about engineering school. He asked about my career. I talked about structural integrity, about calculating load-bearing stress on aircraft fuselage, about knowing exactly how much weight a beam can carry before it fails. "You have to test everything?" he asked. "Everything. Because assumptions kill people at 30,000 feet. You need data, documentation, proof." The kid didn't realize I was also talking about life, about knowing when something is damaged beyond repair, about understanding that sometimes the strongest structure is the one that knows what weight it shouldn't carry anymore. I spent 8 years hoping my son would change, hoping he'd find motivation, hoping he'd show gratitude. Hope kept me passive. Documentation made me powerful. The difference between those two things is everything. The house is quiet now. My files are organized on the dining table without fear. My accounts are secure. My boundaries are clear. I don't have a relationship with my son, but I have my dignity, my independence, my peace. Some people might say, "That's sad." I think it's survival. Brendan taught me something valuable in the end. Not every relationship deserves to be saved. Some need to end so you can remember who you were before you started shrinking yourself to accommodate someone else's entitlement. I'm 71 years old. I spent 38 years engineering aircraft that carry people safely across oceans. I know about structural integrity, about stress fractures, about knowing when to reinforce and when to let go. My structure is sound now, finally. If you're watching this and you've ever supported someone waiting for them to become who you hoped they'd be, drop a comment below and let me know your story. Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and self-preservation? This is Elder Vengeance, where documentation defeats manipulation. Subscribe for more stories where patience meets preparation. Hit that like button if watching entitlement meet consequences felt like justice. And remember, kindness without boundaries isn't kindness, it's just enabling. Until next time, Elder Vengeance protects its own.